Hey everybody, welcome back to Slingin Dirt. This week we're going to be talking UFOs.
And we got an interview with Tad Pospisil.
Yeah, he's a great driver, of course, fan of the week.
And we also have a tech tip on tire grinding.
And then of course we're going to end it out with the all too familiar Songer Says. So stay tuned, it's Slingin Dirt TV. Hey everybody, welcome back to another week of Slingin Dirt. Of course, everybody knows I'm Buddy Ray, and then we got Jack Prawl here. Kind of a, we opened it up funny, but we're going to talk about unidentified flying objects, or UFOs, which some of you may be raising your eyebrows out there, but this is a serious matter, and really. We've been having an issue lately, not us, but the racing world. It doesn't matter if you're in a sprint car, late model, modified. People are getting hit a lot with brake calipers, dirt clods, springs, rocks. And I know this has been going on for as long as racing's been around.
Right.
But either there's a lot more people talking about it, or it's happening a lot more overall.
It's getting publicized, I think, more because people are actually getting hurt by it. And we've talked about, little bits and pieces of it during other shows, but we never committed a whole segment to what's really going on. And most of it's car parts flying and hitting these people. Some of it's mud, some of it's rocks, but big things are, last year I got hit with a tire. I got hit with rocks this year.
How did you get hit with a tire?
Somebody
through the windshield?
Right on the windshield bars. Thank God they were there. It would have killed me.
Oh, yeah.
Over at Eagle, it went like 20 feet up in the air. I couldn't turn left, couldn't turn right, and it just smashed right into the window.
Now, for those of you that don't know, well, a few of you do, actually, Bill Layton took a 4.5 by 4.5, I showed you the picture.
Yep, big chunk.
Took a dirt clod to his helmet, and from what I understand, he needed surgery. I think 4 or 5 plates to the face. He was going to be out for a month. With the speeds, the horsepower, the torque, the weight, when it all comes together, I don't think he had anything in front of his window bars. He had the 3 or 4 windshield bars.
Right.
But when he comes back to the track, I know he's going to have a lot more than just that out there. But what I'm getting at is Rich Tate from Weld Factory and I have been measuring both my modifieds. Of course, everybody knows one's Prowler, one's Dirtworks. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to try to make a safer windshield. I know everybody is talking about visibility. A lot of people don't want anything in front of those 3 or 4 bars because it makes it a lot easier to look at it. I like using the chicken wire, but you get a 4 or 5 inch piece of mud or a brake caliper or your air cleaner when I'm behind you, and that comes through that chicken wire. That chicken wire ain't gonna stop.
The gaps in those bars are probably 4 inches wide.
Oh, at least.
You can fit a lot of stuff in a 4-inch gap if it's right. Like when I got hit with a tire, it sounded like a cannon went off in there because of how hard it hit, but thank God those bars were there. But if you're talking a spring, a brake caliper will fit through there easy. But you got those window bars that are right in front of you. And Josh Moses alluded to that with their chassis, they started extending those bars out further because things can come from the side, because you're always sideways when you're in a corner and things fly through that side gap and they can hit you right in the head.
For those of you watching at home, if you think I'm coming at you down a straightaway like this, and let's say there's a big corner, coming around to the left, I'm not driving square through this corner. I'm going like this. About to knock your coffee over. So I'm driving going into the corner like this. Well, then that far part of the windshield is wide open. It's not this right here. So when I'm coming down straightaway, I'm looking straight this way. And so what Rich Tate and I did with the Weld Factory is we want to extend the bars from the one down bar over here all the way over to cover that whole area, but I'm not going to give away exactly what we're doing.
I know what I would do if it was me. If I was going to redesign one, you have the bars that are straight in front of you, I think I would extend one out at a 45-degree angle or some sort of angle, so it kind of protects, just like your rock shield. A lot of guys have rock shields for your hands. If you ever notice they're angled, I would extend that windshield guard, because when you're coming into a corner and coming out of the corner, there are 2 times that there's always open gaps that can get you. And something like that, but having the smaller wire on top of your bigger wire will cut down the dead squirrels and flying raccoon size mud clods that come through there, because those big bars just turn it into 4-inch chunks instead of 1-inch chunks that don't knock your head off.
Yeah, so when we get we haven't even given it a name yet, but when we get this new setup installed in our car, he came up from Lincoln, measured my cars here about 2 weeks ago, and he's just making one out. He's got the materials. We're going to make it kind of a universal fit with some mounts that it could go in just about any mod. So if you had one in your Harris, but you wanted to keep the safer windshield, you could sell a car, but you could keep the safer windshield and put it in another car. I can tell you that when we get done building this, I already told him I wanted to make a stand, and I wanted to find the biggest, meanest, baddest guys and women, if Ronda Rousey's available. And I wanted to literally give them, I kid you not, I want to give them brake calipers, rotors, and I want them to throw this stuff at that windshield. I want to see, it'll be mounted in a stand, and point blank, as hard as they can, I want them to throw these brake calipers and whatnot. Because if I can take a barrage of objects from 4 or 5 guys at, 40, 50 mile an hour, that, these objects weigh 10 pounds, and if it's going to stop that, I think we're pretty good on dirt track.
Well, anything is better than nothing,
Yeah,
And like I said, I think it's coming to that the cars are getting so fast, and they're such, the setups have got them maxing everything out, so parts are going to break and things come off. But also that alludes to another part, is make sure your stuff's tight, it could be you that's getting hit with your own stuff.
I've actually seen that happen. You'll be in the pit, you'll be getting ready to go out on the track, and then everybody, number one thing I see is air cleaner lids. And don't think for a second that those air cleaner lids can't do anything. When you're going down the track, I'm sitting in the car, I'm looking at you, I'm looking through my windshield. You got your air cleaner lid right up in this area. What will happen is a little nut on the top of the air cleaner lid, when the car's bouncing and you're doing this in the car, it will actually work itself loose because you didn't tighten it down. Well, that whole thing will come up like a flying saucer, UFO. It'll actually come through the windshield, and when it comes to that windshield, unless you've bought something I've never seen, like a square air box, all those air cleaner lids are circle. Well, our visors come around. So all you got to do, and trust me, I've seen cars that don't even have bars in front of the driver's area at some of these little tracks. If that air cleaner lid comes right through that visor, it's going to take out your nose, your eyes, your forehead.
It's not going to be good.
It's not going to be good. But, it could actually, for the guys with the bars, I've seen this happen, it'll go straight through the car like a flying saucer, good and flat. And then what happens is it hits the car behind you. And depending on who it is, that could be really, really bad.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to figure out whose car it came from. So, and that you just gotta make sure your stuff's on there tight. You got a nut and bolt check every week. It doesn't. Yeah, it gets boring and monotonous, but it's for your safety. It's for your competitors' safety.
Yeah, if anything, look out, or look at the safety aspect of it. Number one thing I've seen in the sport mods, the left rear spring.
I was just going to go to that because
how
many have I thrown out?
Right. But now that IMCA and the local NASCAR tracks here have allowed the use of a chain limiter, we should never have a problem, losing left rear springs. At least I wouldn't think. So get with the chassis builder, get with somebody you trust. Look at putting the tethers on your left rears to keep your springs in. And
you put hose clamps on the bottom of your springs. We extended the top of the spring cups with cones so that when it hikes up, that the spring doesn't come out, the bottom stays in. I don't know if the answer is the chain limiters and stuff, but I don't know why they made us take the 16-inch springs out anyway. So
yeah,
kind of silly. They caused a bigger problem by taking them away from us than they did by letting us have them.
Yeah, but I honestly think that you can adjust a car with a 13-inch spring and make it work just as well as a 16-inch spring and not lose it. You just got to work on the setup a little bit. I think people tend to overthink that because at first I was like, oh my God, we can't run the 16-inch spring. Oh, Mother Mary,
what are we going to do? Last time I checked, yours had 16-inch springs.
Well, it don't have 16-inch. It don't have 16-inch.
Cheater come.
Yeah. So I tell you what, tell us what you think. What can people do to protect the windshield areas? The left rear spring debate. That's as old as Moses. Everybody's pretty much gotten a handle on that. But overall, what can we make the cars what can we do to the cars to make them safer on the track so we don't have stuff coming through here, and that way we don't have to deal with.
Yeah, if you got any ideas that we haven't mentioned or whatever, let us know. We'd be happy to put your idea on the air and get it out to everybody else. So.
Yep. So I tell you what, we're gonna take a quick break, and we're gonna go to one of our sponsors, and we'll be right back here on Slingin Dirt TV.
This is Tad Pospisil, driver of the 04 late model. Jack, Buddy Ray was letting me know that you need some test laps. Come on up and I'll show you a few things at Who's Your Daddy Speedway.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Slingin Dirt. We've been getting some really good interviews, but boy, here's one guy that wins a lot. He's the IED track champion in the late models from 2014. He's going places. Can you imagine starting out the year 2015, 11 races, you've won 8 of them, and the last 2 that you won, you lap the field up to like 5th?
Not even in my wildest dreams.
I mean, the closest thing you'll ever get to doing laps in is in your zero-turn mowers, drinking a toddy with your personal bartender, John.
I am good at that.
Yeah, you are good with that.
I'm a winner at that.
So I tell you what, let's go to Norfolk, Nebraska. Here's the driver of the 04 late model, Tad Pospisil. Everybody, welcome back to Slingin Dirt TV. Jack Prawl, he's knee-deep in some weeds somewhere down in Beaver Lake, so he can't be here. Sorry about your luck, Jack, but tell you what, I'm in Norfolk, Nebraska, with the legendary Tad Pospisil, driver of the 04 late model. Tad, how's it going?
It's going great today. It's a beautiful day out. The winter passed on Monday, and so it's going to be a nice day, and all the forecast looks like rain.
Yeah, it looks like rain. It's like we can't get away from the rain. I tell you what, there's something else you can't get away from this year, and that's feature wins. 11 starts, 8 feature wins. What's up with that?
We're just having a great year so far, and cars have been holding together. We've had a good maintenance program, and been blessed to get through traffic without wrecks, and just winning races.
So last year you won the IED Speedway, the NASCAR Weekly Series Championship. When you went into the wintertime, getting ready to go into 2015, was there anything that you wanted to adjust or said, you know, we were good this year, but I think we can be better this year? Is there anything in the program that you changed?
Yeah, we were on the missile chassis by Kyle Burke last year, and you know, over the course of the season, in December, we found out that Kyle was going to switch chassis, and we got to thinking maybe we should, because we didn't know how to better our program from where we were last year, because we won the I-80 championship, but we knew we needed to get better, because when the Silver Dollar guys, you know, the Lucas Oil MLRA guys came in, you know, we were getting beat pretty good by them, so we knew we had to adjust somewhere, and after a lot of long hours and phone calls with Grandpa, we finally decided to go the Black Diamond chassis by Ronnie Stuckey, and we went down in March and picked it up in Louisiana, and so.
And that's what you're running this year?
That's what we're running in the SLMR, yep. And the local level, we're racing the Missile still by Kyle. Right.
Now, you talked about the Silver Dollar Nationals, and there's 70, 80 late models that show up from that, you know, from all over the nation. We were talking about this before we went to camera. You've been running that the last, 2-3 years?
Yep.
When you go to a race like the Silver Dollar Nationals, let's say you don't make the feature. Even if you don't make the feature, is there still a lot of stuff that you learned from an event like that that you can apply towards your weekly stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're racing against the best, so whether it's pushing you to drive to the extra extreme or, you know, the driving is just, you got to drive so much harder to race with them guys, it seems like, and you know, and if your car's not handling as good as theirs, it makes you figure out why. So.
Yeah. Now, have you ever been able to go to a race like that and talk to some of those veteran guys and go, you know, my car's doing this, my car's doing that, or have you always worked with Kyle Burke, you know, a lot one-on-one?
Up until this year, I've always worked with Kyle one-on-one, and so, you know, before Kyle, I was just starting out, and so I didn't really even know what the Lucas Oil or World Outlaws even was at that time. We were just local racing, and So then when I got hooked up with Kyle, he kept bumping us up, you know, getting us better, and we kept bumping up levels, trying to get better and better. And so, you know, I knew of the guys and as I was hanging out with Kyle, but never knew him good enough to ask him those type of questions.
Right. I remember.
It seems like now working with Ronnie Stuckey that he's given us that option to be able to talk to more than upper level guys.
Right. I was actually in a limousine for about 45 minutes to an hour with Kyle Burke and Scott Bloomquist. You can only imagine the talks that, you know, I got to be in on. And I was like, wow, I've got two legends. I got one legend and one that's going to be a legend in Kyle Burke. A lot of people, you know, can make the argument real easy that he is a legend already. And I actually looked at Scott Bloomquist. I go, Scott, when you've got an 80-lap race, do you set your car up tight at the beginning of the race to try to free it up through the race? What do you do to make the car? And it's kind of funny. Kyle Burke starts laughing. He goes, yeah, Scott, how do you do that? I was like, and Scott goes, it's all up here. And Kyle goes, you care to share? And Scott's like, you're fine, Kyle. You're fine. And so I'm just sitting back here going, man, I wish I had a camera in the limousine for this. That was really cool. You know, and so me being just a little old B-Mod driver, you know, and I'm sitting in the car with Scott Bloomquist and Kyle Burke. When you go to these races and you've got the Jimmy Owens and the Kyle Burks and the Scott Bloomquist and the Darrell Lanigans, are you kind of awestruck like, I can't believe I'm here with these guys doing this?
It's pretty awesome to be on the racetrack. I mean, when you line up and Scott Bloomquist or Don O'Neill's pull outside or you're pull inside, you know, and you're lining up in a heat race or something, or even if you beat some of them guys, it's like, wow, that's an accomplishment.
So how do you as a driver keep your composure when you're lined up next to those guys?
It's I don't know. I grew up racing at the national level through go-karts, so it's a little easier for me. I think that I could it's just another race. You know, you're out there competing the same as they are. So I don't do it for a living, so I don't need it to be my paycheck to live the next week or put food on the table. So I'm sure they drive a little bit harder because I want to keep my equipment good. But
Yeah.
you know.
But that actually, you know, the success and what you learned there, it did trickle down to your weekly shows.
Oh, definitely.
You know, I've talked to a lot of guys who are like, we're just going to focus on the weekly shows. We're not going to go to these specials and run the risk of tearing cars up. And I've always told people, you're really kind of shooting yourself in the foot with your racing program when you don't go to the specials and you don't race against the better. You're only as, in my opinion, you're only as good as the people that you race against.
I totally agree. I mean, just like with this year, we've hit a couple Lucas Oil MRA shows, and I mean, at the local level, you can tell that it's made us so much better, and all those SLMR races is going to make us better. Just you get used to racing at that higher speed and better competition, it just drives your success. I mean, you learn to drive different and drive harder and get everything you can get out of that car, whereas if you just stay at that local level, you're only going to get out of the car what you need out of the car.
Yep. You know, you mentioned the SLMR series. That series has only been around, I think, 2 or 3 years, something like that. What do you think of that series?
I think it's a great series. I got to thank Malvern Trust and Bank out of, I'm not sure in Iowa what town they're out of. But
Malvern, Iowa.
Malvern, thanks.
Yeah.
I don't know much about
Malvern.
Iowa, but got to thank them. They increased the purse this year, and it seems like Jay Burdick's been getting the series growing with sponsorship every year. And Joe Kaziski, got to thank them guys for putting the series on. I mean, it's great to have a traveling series because that's what we grew up go-kart racing, traveling in the Midwest, you know, like this SLMR similar.
Yep.
And it brings great competition. I mean, you race against a lot of the same guys, the Kyle Burks, the Bill Laytons, the Jace Kazers. So, you know, it's a lot of the guys you race against, but you're doing it at different racetracks. So it's not like you fine-tune your program to this one racetrack and you're getting beat by the same guy because he's so good at that racetrack. You get to go to different racetracks.
I've always thought if you wanted to go the MRLA route or the Lucas Oil late model route, you're going to have some major financial backing to make a full run of it. With the SLMR series, you only have so many races to go to, and Joe tries to keep it within, you know, a 2.5 to 3 hour drive for just about anybody. And that's what I always thought was intriguing and attractive to the late model racers. And then as I'm watching the SLMR series grow, the SLMR cars, there's some guys out there that have cars just for the SLMR, and some guys will have a weekly car. And with that being said, I watched the SLMR car evolve into something that's just as fast as a MRLA car, and sometimes a Lucas Oil late model car, you know. And I always applauded Joe Kaczynski for that. So back to you though, we were talking. You started in the go-karts.
Yep.
When you started in the go-karts, and all of a sudden a light bulb went off and go, I want to do late models. You took one hell of a corporate jump up the ladder. I mean, you didn't go street stock or modified or B-mod. You went straight to late model. Walk us through that process.
Well, as we've traveled the go-karting world all over the place, I mean, we won 3 national championships, and it just got to the point where we were gone every weekend doing 3-day shows. And at that time I was in high school and I wanted to stay home with the friends, and you know, I missed a lot of high school friend life, but I mean, I also gained a lot of friendships through the racing and stuff. But so I thought we would stay local and race late models, and actually we bought our first car from Will Schaller down here in town, and his son was pretty successful racing, and now he's currently racing at I-80. But we just thought we'd make a jump, and that's the way we thought we would go. And so it was definitely a big difference from, I mean, this little go-kart to this big boat.
This big boat, yeah. In my 23 years of racing, I've seen a lot of guys that said, you know, you should go from a go-kart to a sport compact to a hobby stock to a modified, then, you know, to a late model or a sprint car. And a lot of guys have always said, you know, when you do that and you climb through the ranks, you learn throttle control, car control, maintenance, setups. You gradually learn. Kyle Berg, who's helped you a lot, when he went straight to late model, he was like, if that's what I want to do, I was told, just go do it. That way, I'm not going through the ranks and I'm not picking up bad habits. Would you agree with that?
I would, just from talking to my dad who races the 4-cylinder sitting over here in our shop.
Whoa. There's a, yep, there's one here. So, is he any good?
He's pretty good. I got to give him props, but he's a little funny to watch drive a rear-wheel drive car.
Have you ever let him haul out one of these or anything?
I let him pack the track one time at Norfolk, the old Riviera track here, and he said, I can't figure out how to shift it. I just packed in low gear the whole time, and hell, I couldn't get off the racetrack. I couldn't see.
Was you kind of like, all right, and that's the end of your late model career?
That was the end of his late model career. Plus, he can't fit in my seat anymore, so that's a good excuse to keep him out of the car.
Oh, there you go.
But back to your question,
yeah.
you know, he did say that Dylan, my brother, drives a B-mod, and they were originally going to swap back and forth, but he said he just can't get used to the rear-wheel drive car. He's so used to the front-wheel drive that I do feel that you develop bad habits maybe making that step first. And I don't know, going from a B-mod to a late model, it's still a big difference from the size of the car and where you can put the car, and you know, the B-mod, you can see the nose a little bit, you can see where your tires are a little bit driving, and you could probably fill me in a little more on that. But late model, it's a lot of feel.
Well, not me. The last time I raced a B-mod a couple weeks back, I blew a transmission up a lap and a half into hot lap. So trust me, not right now.
So not right now, but
not right now.
But the late model driving is just it seems like it's just a lot of driver feel and knowing where the nose is, where the tail of the car is, and I kind of agree with Kyle. I think if that's the step you're gonna go, if that's your ultimate goal is to get the late model racing, that's where you just go straight there.
Yep.
Because there's so many different things in the late model to learn. I mean, the adjustments are unbelievable. What's underneath the car, and I mean, it still comes back to simple theory of, you know, the stagger and all that stuff that is a sport compact or a B mod or a mod or hobby stock, whatever you're in. So I mean, it's still the same car adjustments, but just enhanced for a late model.
So when did you actually start racing late model full time?
I started the summer of 2006.
Wow, so you're pushing 10 years in a late model.
Yep.
9 years this year.
Yep.
How many different tracks have you been to?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't even know. At least over 20 probably, I would say.
What would be your favorite track to go to?
Actually, the track's closed now. It was Blackbird Bend in Ottawa.
Oh, I love Blackbird Bend.
Yeah, that was a fun racetrack.
Yeah, yes it was.
Although you had to be careful coming off of 2. You'd end up in the fishing pond out there.
I did. I did at one time.
Man, that track was racy, and it wasn't the widest groove, but it was just racy. You had a top groove, a bottom groove, and
Well, I always thought you went down the front straightaway and you pitched it into 1 and 2. You couldn't full bore 1 and 2. Now, coming through 3 and 4, you could be wide open.
Mm-hmm.
And then I actually went to the top of the grandstands, and I was really looking at the track. And come to find out, in my opinion, it was extremely D-shaped.
Yes.
Long straightaway, big swipe, big swooping all the way from 1 to 4. And I was like, well, that would explain why you can't full bore 1 and 2, but you can full bore 3 and 4 and come off, hot.
they were definitely different shaped corners. 1 and 2 was a little narrower, tighter corner, and 3 and 4 was wide open. Funny story about that, my first feature race I won there, I actually about spun out on the last lap in 3 and 4 and cut across the infield. And all the drivers were giving me hell that I should finish the other extra half a lap to get my feature win.
So now that Blackbird's closed, although there's rumors that it might be opening this year, later on in 2015, what other tracks that you're currently racing now would you list as your favorite tracks?
I'd have to say I-80's getting up there. That was a tough track for me to get used to, but now that I'm starting...
Well, a championship there might...
That definitely
That
skews
helped.
it a little bit.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, this new track here, I really like this new track, this off-road speedway. It's really racy. It's short, but it's quick, and I tell you what, if you glance down at the gauges, you better be turning left again.
Not much time to sit there and
No,
take
no,
dinner and think about what you're doing. You got to be right on the wheel and know what you have a game plan.
Definitely, and it's a beautiful facility. So I hope it keeps going.
So 9 years in a late model. Let's look forward. You're a pretty young guy. 10 years from now, you still see yourself in a late model?
I sure hope so.
Do you see yourself maybe jumping up full-time Lucas Oil or MRLA? Or do you still see yourself being grounded home and doing some weekly stuff and hitting like the SOMR series and some of the other bigger shows?
I honestly don't know where the next 10 years will take me, wherever it is.
Just kinda
It's
go with
gonna
the
be
flow.
Great. I mean, I'd love to get up there and run some Lucas Oil shows and run the MLRA and be a contender in that. But, whatever God blesses me with, that's what it'll be. I'm not gonna... I mean, it's not like my goal is I need to be at the Lucas Oil in 10 years. I don't
Yeah.
have that set in my first sight or anything, but if it happened, that'd be awesome.
A lot of people, and some of you guys watching, Tad and I talked to a racer a long time ago, a modified racer, and he loves goals. He goes, I always want to win. Always want to win. If you're not out there to win, you're in the wrong sport. You don't need to be in the sport. And while I think he's got a point, and you mentioned goals here, I don't put too many goals on my shoulders. Because when you put too many goals on your shoulders, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, I think that can set yourself up for a lot of heartache and disappointment. And I think a lot of times these guys will come out, well, we need to win, we need to be top 5. Well, that's all fine and dandy, and you want that, but it shouldn't be a goal because eventually it's going to break your heart, it's going to break your wallet, you're going to get flustered, and you're out of the sport. Mm-hmm. In late models, no offense to you being a late model driver, but it's not like you guys have 400 cars out there in eastern Nebraska right now.
That's right.
You guys got a pretty low car count. So with goals, you don't try to sit there and say, well, I'm not going to do this. You just go with the flow. Have fun with what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. That's the biggest thing about racing, unless you're doing it for a living, is have fun. It's hard to do sometimes. We all want to win. We all want to be in that top 5. I mean, that's why we bust our butt. I mean, I'm out here every night of the week and just trying to make sure the car's ready to go. And setting goals is tough. I tell you, last year, Jace Kaiser was putting the pressure on me at that I-80 championship. I mean, it was coming down to the wire there. And, that's your goal, is to win that championship. Like we were talking, that's a ton of added pressure. But
when you watch the championship, do you check in every week at the pit shed and you're looking at points, going, do you follow the points? Because and the reason why I ask is I've talked to a lot of champions who are like, oh, we don't points race. We never look at points. And I remember at Crawford County Speedway, for 2012, 2013, I'm running weekly, and I'm having the best runs of my life for 2 years there. And every week I'm looking at points. I'm like, all right, I got to do better than this guy. I got to do better than this guy. Did you ever find yourself doing that same thing? Or do you not honestly look at points?
I think people that tell you that they weren't, running for a championship and not looking at the points are lying to you. Cause,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Why go back if you're running 10th or you know what I'm saying? If you're way down in points, why even look at the sheet so much then? But if you're going for a championship, you're looking at the points. And I tell you, there's that nice thing called the internet, and I was checking out the points.
You ever check out the points? Is you leave the pitch and you're on your smartphone, your Android, your iPhone, and you're going, Dad, we moved up 4 positions in the points tonight.
Oh yeah, all the time on the drive home, me and Grandpa. Well, we're sitting in second now. We gotta beat Jace, or we gotta beat Bill Layton this next week, and
Yep. Here a couple weeks back, I'm gonna ask you a really good question. A couple weeks back, I had we have a fan of the week segment, and he asked Jack and I a question. He goes, "What can racing do to promote more late model drivers? How do we get more late model drivers in the sport?" He had mentioned back when he was going to Sunset, there would be 40, 50 late models. Well, nowadays, you're lucky if you see 20 or 30 late models. In your opinion, being a veteran late model driver, what can promoters, chassis, what needs to happen to get more late models on the tracks?
I think Junction Motor Speedway is doing a good job of incorporating the crate late model racing, which I see IMCA doing now, and the modifieds and the B mods. I just think that's the biggest thing, is the cost is so high now. I mean, I've listened to tons of videos of Billy Moyer, and last year at Knoxville Raceway, it was Billy Moyer and Steve Francis and Brian Burkhofer. They're all talking about the main thing. It's so expensive to compete at that upper level. And so I really think, like when you're talking the 40 cars, from talking to Kyle back in the day, it used to be a limited late model, so it was a cheaper engine, and they couldn't have brand new Hoosier tires. They had to run used tires, and so a lot of that is just the cost of it is so darn expensive, and it's just, even now I got 2 cars sitting here, it's just outrageous what the cost is. And
after 23 years just being in the B mods, I've done a few A mod races, but most of my career's been in the B mod style car. I've looked back and I was like, if I took every dollar back that I've ever spent in racing, or directly or indirectly, I could have a shop the size of this. I could have a nice house on a beautiful lake, a couple of horses. Do you ever look at that and go,
oh yeah,
wow? Do you ever question yourself, why am I doing this?
Yeah, I'm an accountant. That's my day job. So I try to forget what the numbers look like when they go out, because it makes me not feel so bad. But there is times we've looked back and it's like, my goodness, what kind of, like you said, what kind of place could we have if we didn't have all this? But then you also think, what about all the memories that you made?
Oh, absolutely. You can't put a price on that.
That's right. There's so many. Just being in Victory Lane that first time is priceless. It's just a great feeling to be in Victory Lane, be at the track with your friends, and just.
When you're talking being in the Victory Lane and hanging out with your friends, you're talking about success, which leads me to my next question.
The stump question. And this is, and for you viewers watching Tad and I'd like to hear your opinion. How do you measure success in racing? Is it the W's for you? Is it the memories that you've made? Is it what you've tried to contribute outside of the track? If somebody comes to you and says, Tad, are you a successful race car driver? Well, that's kind of a hidden question, because for success, also there's failure. You can't have one without the other. They're married. That's right. I could see a lot of failures in my racing career, but I could see a lot of success in my career. So for you, I would have to say that success is definitely defined off at some point in time winning, obviously. That's how you get your name out there. You got to win some races. But I also think outside of racing, going into the fans and incorporating yourself with the fans and being publicly known. I don't like to throw her name out here, but Danica Patrick is one of them people that, they probably define her as successful because she's so publicly known. She doesn't win any races, but
right,
she's publicly known. So I would have to say that it's just more incorporation than just winning races. And as for failures, all the winning drivers, or all the successful drivers, have all been through their failures before they've had success. And so it's a tough question to answer. You could ask one person and they'd say, well, it's the guy that wins the most races. He's a successful one. Look at Jimmy Johnson. He's won 7 championships now. And
I'm pretty sure we can say that Jimmy Johnson's pretty
successful. Yeah, exactly. But you're going to turn around and say, like, Landon Castle, who I used to race in go-karts is not successful. Well, he's in the NASCAR world racing, so in my eyes he's successful.
He's pretty successful.
But maybe in Jimmy Johnson's eyes he's not successful. So
Right.
it just depends whose eyes you're looking at, whose view. I mean, to the little kid that looks up and he's like, oh, that guy's a race car driver, I would say in his eyes I'm successful then, you know, whether I'm winning the race or not. It's just it depends what eyes you're looking at and what your views are.
So you think you've been pretty successful so far?
I say we've been pretty successful, but I think there's a long ways to go.
Long ways to go.
Yeah.
One thing I've noticed, I've seen you race in the last 2 or 3 years, and it seems like every year you're getting 1, 2, maybe 3 more sponsors year in and year out. I remember seeing an 04 car that was pretty blank. It looked like a blank billboard on the side of I-29. And now I come in here and you've got 1, 2, 3.
It's like a paragraph on the side
you
of
have
ours.
a paragraph.
Yes.
You know, how, I would imagine without your sponsors, you wouldn't be where you're at today.
Oh, heavens no. I mean, we picked up another sponsor this year, Texas Energy Mutual and Signer Trucking. I mean, those guys just help us out a ton. And all of the sponsors, I got to thank them that have been around with us since the beginning. But without them, as you know, racing, you don't go anywhere without your sponsors. I mean, maybe you're racing at one track a week if you're lucky, and they're still barely surviving.
So if you guys have been noticing with some of the driver interviews, I'm going to put you on the spot here. You cannot look at the car. Can you name every sponsor on the car without taking a pause?
Ooh, that's tough, but I'm going to start. Texas Energy Mutual, Window World, Signer Trucking, Cook Farms, Kaiser Manufacturing, Morrissey Motor Company, C. High and Associates, Subway, and I paused.
And you paused. And now if you think of one, go ahead and butt in and let me know, because we've interviewed a lot of people and they're like, well, I've got this guy and I've got that guy, and I'm like, well, now in NASCAR you don't see Jimmy Johnson going, well, I got a little one called Lowe's right there.
I got to thank Cornhusker International. They jumped on board this year. Can-Am, Maytag, they've been with me a few years.
See, there's a couple,
There's
2, 3
a couple,
right
3 right there,
yeah.
And then the radio stations here in town, 106.7 and WJG or KXL. So definitely got to thank those guys. But yeah, you don't see Jimmy Johnson going, Lowe's, yeah.
Lowe's, yeah. We just happen to have had them for a few years.
Yeah, but they get to practice a little more, you know.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't know. 8 feature wins out of 11 starts this year. I'm thinking you should have enough practice time already.
That's true.
That's true.
Yeah. I'll give you
So,
that.
what is it about this car? We were talking, you were kind of laughing because it had been mentioned to me that up here at Off-Road Speedway that you had lapped the field a couple of times. You're like, it's kind of exaggeration. I might have lapped them, so far, but you only lapped them once. What is it about this car in your success this year that's so much different than last year?
We're racing a little. A lot of it goes back to, like we said, racing the upper level. You get better. You make yourself get better. And I've learned so much from Kyle, and I've learned now from Ronnie Stuckey. I just keep learning new things and what I like to fit my driving style. That's the biggest thing I think over these past 3 years that I've matured, is to take the knowledge that I know and apply it to my driving style. And so this car, this missile chassis that we've been racing locally, I had a full season at the SLMR level in it last year, so now I put this little 604 crate in it with no horsepower, and I can take my knowledge that I know and apply it to this lower application and succeed and be successful like we've been.
How significant has your pit crew been, or lack of pit crew? I don't know. Maybe you have 20 guys, maybe you have 1 guy.
I have my grandpa that helps me during the week, and I gotta thank him so much. He does all the tires and helps me wash. And at 71 years old, I mean, I tell you what, I wouldn't be here without him.
Well, Grandpa's here. Why don't you come over here? Come on over here. Yeah, you're gonna be involved because I got a good question. Now, for those that know who I am out there, my dad had been involved with my racing since '94 till last year, 22 seasons. And then he passed away last year. And I've always been intrigued by this. I don't know how many times my dad and I have screamed, yelled, thrown wrenches, and whatnot. And then my dad finally one day, we were working on the car. We were starting to get a little growly with each other. Dad very calmly put the wrenches down. He was like, we're not working on it no more tonight. He's like, that means we missed the race. This was about 3-4 years ago. If that means we missed the race, we missed the race, but we're not working on it no more. And I was like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm grabbing the fishing rods, and we're going to go fishing. And I'm like, okay, maybe this is going to be one of those Lifetime movie father-son moments. And so we're on the river, and this is what he says. You need to learn how to balance your personal life with your racing life. And so for you guys being so intimately involved with each other, how do you guys find that balance as a team so you're not putting too much pressure on yourself and shooting yourself in the foot with the racing program?
It's taken a lot of time just telling him to relax, and he does hold me to a higher standard, which has made me better.
Well, my dad did that. My dad would walk up to me, now does that look right to you? Really, does that look right? I mean, and you feel about that tall. You do, because you're like, I thought it was fine.
Yep.
And then, and I don't know if you've ever done this, but what my dad would do to me, Tad, is he would completely fix something. When the first time he had me do a hub, he took the hub off, he fixed it, he spun it. I was like, all right, I'm going to go get a soda in the house. I'm thinking the hub's fixed. I'll never forget this. I come back out, the hub is on the ground, tore apart. He goes, now fix it. And I'm like, wow.
Well, the roles are a little different there. My grandpa wasn't all the most mechanically inclined, so, but I mean, I do most of the work, I guess I should say, the mechanical side of it. He takes care of the tires and stuff, so the role's a little bit reversed where I would have him put the hook back on, but...
Hey, welcome back to Slingin Dirt. It's time for Fan of the Week, bud. We got a great question this week.
Man, you always get in the head, and I'm getting in the abdomen. What do we got right here? I tell you what, before I show you what drivers, feel this shirt. Tell me if you've ever felt a shirt like that.
That is a nice shirt.
That is a very comfortable, very nice shirt. It is none other than Nelson Wolbrecht out of Stanton, Iowa. He drives the 11X Sport Mod, Bill's built chassis. Right. Really nice guy. I actually met him. He's going to be on the show here in a week or two. Him and his dad, very down-to-earth people. It'll be a good interview. Just remember that when you possibly hear the words Joe Dirt.
Right.
Yeah.
I heard about all the bashing I got at these interviews that I don't get to go to because I'm too busy working. So
yep.
I'll just pay you back later. It's no big deal. You know how this works.
So who's our fan of the week?
Our fan of the week is Sherry Neeland.
Where's she from?
Forgot.
Well, you know, name like Joe Dirt. No wonder you can't read.
Yeah. Anyways, you know where she's from. Where's she from?
Well, I can read. I'm from Iowa. Clearwater, Nebraska.
Well, I'm reading.
That's in the same state you live in, Joe Dirt.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Well, her question is, for dirt track racing, do fans realize how expensive it is to race?
Well,
no.
No.
All right, we're done with this segment. No.
Yep, there you go. I honestly, I think the fans know it costs a lot of money.
Right.
And I don't know if you've ever been approached like this over at Joe's. It's funny. I've had guys come up when I've had my car in the back. We're working on it, while we're open, and they'll come up serious as a heart attack. Wow, that looks like it's expensive. Nope. I picked it up on the Kmart Blue Light Special, $2.99. Oh, yes, it's expensive. And they'll be like, well, how much are those engines? $20,000? Nope.
Yeah. And,
it's like they either think it's like a big bar of gold on four wheels, or they think you get it for so dirt cheap that it can't be very expensive because we just tear them up anyways. And when you look at the financial cost of it and how expensive they are, what they also don't see is the loss of family time, the hard work, the mentality that goes into it. It's not just all about, financial.
Yeah, and
money.
I was doing a charity fundraiser this weekend, and I had, around a crowd of people who weren't racers, but we had some racing stuff that we were selling as part of the fundraising effort. And they were asking, how expensive is a tire? How expensive is a rim? What does it cost for this? And what does it cost for that? And you could just see the look on their faces like, really?
Well, my question for you would be is, what does Joe Dirt's appearance be anymore?
I think I had to pay them just to pretend that I was important. But hey, we raised $1,500 for the Murray Freedom Festival.
There you go. I was thinking about this when she Facebooked me, and I was like, well, on a typical night, when you go to the track, it's you and BJ, your son. Let's figure John's in there. Let's assume Sandy goes, your wife. That's 4 people. You get $20 for snacks and chips and your alcohol, your adult beverage. So that's $100 right there. No, actually,
that's more than $100.
4 times 30 is well, you're 20. So you're about $120.
Sure, plus your gas money.
Plus your gas money. So just to get to the track, minimum, even for the low budget racers, you're talking $200 a night.
Yeah.
Oh, easy. You start going into these toters and haulers and stackers, you're talking $1,000 plus a night. Well, when we win a race, you're anywhere from, sport compacts, let's say 75 to 100. You get up into the A mods, you're talking 400 or 500. Late models maybe pushing 750 to 1,000. I could be wrong. None of us are making money at this.
Oh, if you think we do this to make money, you are crazy.
You are very sadly mistaken. I mean, I have holes in these jeans. I mean, I ain't making any money at this. So I really don't think the fans, understand how expensive it can. There are fans out there that do. And I don't know if you've heard this in the pits. I have. Well, you should have taken them out. You should have dumped them. You should have done this. You should have done that. And I'm like, you gonna pay to fix the car?
Exactly. I mean, when you're paying if somebody was just paying me to drive a car, I could drive like that, and it wouldn't be no big deal if you got an open checkbook and a big operation. But guys like you and I, who's got to pay for all this stuff out of your pocket, you do drive a little more cautiously. Yes, it costs you in some situations.
Oh, yeah.
It's all give and take. We don't do this to make money. We do it because we love racing. We all want to win,
Yep.
but only one guy can. So you just pick and choose your battles. And you get in a bad one like I did a few years ago. That's $3,000-$4,000 to just restub a car.
Oh yeah. And I want to flip this around a little bit. I've gone out to Eagle Raceway a lot, and I know you've seen us a lot at Eagle. Let's flip this around on the fans. How expensive is this for the fans? I think this is a really good question, because this kind of plays into what we were talking about on the Slingin Dirt here quite a while ago, was the cost of racing, and bringing people and stuff. It's getting to be expensive to take a family of 5 or 6 out to the track. But then at times, especially at Eagle Raceway, you go out there, there's campers and RVs. Mm-hmm. They're staying 1 or 2 days before a weekly show. And then if you get a big show like the NSL deal, you get the
World Outlaws,
World of Outlaws,
like
or the USAC show. Now you're getting them staying, instead of 1 to 2 nights before the weekly show, they're staying 2 to 3, if not 4 nights. And last time I checked, it's not like there's a bunch of men just giving away, some campers and RVs on every street corner in America.
No.
You got to buy the darn things for several $1,000s.
Yep.
And then you got the upkeep there.
But what I do have to say, though, is that a lot of these tracks, at least we know of I-80, we know of Eagle, and there's probably more you know about, but they're doing driver appreciation stuff, giving away thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of free tickets to offset that. It's to help the drivers promote the sport. You get to give them to your sponsors, to your friends, and people who don't normally go to the track on a regular basis and spend that kind of money just to sit in the stands.
If you've been watching my Facebook page,
oh, I know, it's just people.
I mean, they're just going hog wild over my free tickets at I-80. I ended up giving away over 3,000 tickets.
Right.
I mean, it was. By the way, Joe Kaczynski, if you're watching this show, my wife is not a big fan of the driver appreciation night. She loves a big crowd, but when she had to hand sign 3,000 plus tickets,
You're supposed to sign them.
well, I'm Buddy Ray's Slingin. I have an
Legend in his own mind.
Yep. I'll tell you what, we're going to take a short break right here. We're going to go talk to our sponsors, and we'll be right back with another fun segment. So stay tuned. It's Slingin Dirt.
Joe's Karting is the Metro's fastest indoor karting facility. Come to Joe's to experience speed, join the competition, and ride the fastest indoor track around. Our professionally designed indoor karting track is perfect for arrive and drive racing, race classes, and racing competitions. We offer affordable pricing options, membership packages, event outings, and so much more. Stop in today to get registered for your next race, and don't forget to like us on Facebook for deals, giveaways, and more. Visit us online at joeskarting.com.
back to Slingin Dirt. It's that time of the week where we are going to be doing a tech tip on grinding tires. Before we go into the segment, there's a million different ways to grind tires according to a million different people.
Right.
We're just showing you what I do at the track. We're not saying that this is what you have to do, but the basis is grind your tires, get
the hard dirt out of them, make them tacky again. We didn't have a siper.
No.
We're not going to do all that on camera. If you choose to go that far with your tires, more power to you. You probably know more about them than we do. And if you do and you want to be on the show, give us a
by
call.
all means. So I tell you what, here we go. Here's tire grinding. All right, so here's Jack and I. We're at my shop where we tear a lot of stuff up. But this week on the tech tip, we're gonna do tire grinding. Now I see a lot of guys that will use their traditional gold disc or even a nail head disc. And Jack, over here, you got my belt sander. You got to see this in action at ID Speedway a couple weeks ago.
I did. It works pretty good. It's dramatically different as far as the amount of dust and dirt and debris that comes off the grinding wheels and things like that. It's a little safer. You're not getting stuff stuck in, but it still achieves the same goal.
It achieves the same goal. Now, when you're using one of these, if you notice in the show, I don't ever wear my glasses. I'm wearing the glasses today because on these tires, now this tire, we're gonna demonstrate this. On these tires at the track level, you'll get a lot of rocks, a lot of wood chips, a lot of dirt. And what can happen is on these discs, it'll actually knock the little carbide teeth off. And also with this disc, when you get into the tire, you can actually, what we call, smoke the tires, where you're getting a little too aggressive. You get down into the tire and you'll see little tufts of white smoke come off. The other thing, and I was gonna put my suit on to show you guys out there watching, and you women out there watching, if you're using this disc, what can happen is sometimes this will buck off the tire, it'll grab and it'll jerk, and what will happen, it'll come back, and I actually have my one suit, and I don't know if you noticed this, there's a slit right here. That safety first and foremost in this sport. And the one thing I noticed with this, when we show you in a second, is you don't have that problem with this.
And what grit paper are we running on?
On this one, I personally like to run 24 grit. I know a lot of teams like to run that 36 grit. My wife could only find the 36 grit. So right now we have 36 grit on this. I personally like to run a 24 grit paper. So let's go ahead and I'll show you what we do here on this. Now, I don't know if the camera could actually see that, but there was a little bit of smoke that came off that tire.
Right, and this also feels like it has just a little bit chunkier finish than the belt sander does, but it's still just tacky as hell. So
it's tacky as hell. So we're gonna roll it over. We're gonna plug this in. Now, the one thing I have learned using the belt sander, you go to a track that's real dry, slick, and it's wanting to quote unquote chew up. Might help if I use the right cord.
yeah.
So, one thing I've learned is that when you go to the track and it's sand in the tire, the track gets abrasive, it's hard, dry, slick, the tire can feather. And that's where, if we're standing at the tire here, let's say this is my right rear, from my standpoint, looking towards the front of the car, the tread blocks will be like this. So what we do is we actually turn the tire around so we can grind that tread block off. So what we do is, on the belt sander, I'll usually turn it down to like level 1, level 2. That's all we're doing.
And there you go. See, that gives you
It's a nice.
just as tacky, but it seems like you have a lot more control with the belt sander, and you can feather out the spots that you want a little more instead of grooving it with a disc. It's more of a flat surface.
Right.
So I think you get a better finish with the belt sander, to be honest.
That, and to me, in my opinion, this is a lot safer also.
Oh, way safer.
You're not going to have this coming in and bucking and jerking. Now, I have noticed that a lot of times what I'll do is, you know, when I first get on the tire, it'll buck and jerk, but 99.9% of the times when it does buck, if it bucks, it'll be because I have a little piece of mud inside the tread grooves here or whatnot, but I've used it for a long time. I know a lot of teams have gone to it.
And that's another thing too, is you want to wipe as much of the dirt off your tires and stuff as you can before you even start, because if not, you're just grinding the dirt right back in that you're trying to get off of it. So clean the tires as best you can before you start grinding.
So there you go. That's this week's tech tips. We'll see you back in the studio. Welcome back to Slingin Dirt TV. Let's just get right to it. It's another installment of none other but Songer Says.
Warning, the related content may be disturbing to some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Alright, so we're gonna talk about the guy who can't drive and is never, ever, ever at fault. Ever, it's never. You know the guy. He comes off turn 4 for the first lap of the heat in 8th place, and he takes out 4 cars. Because he jumped the start and thought he was fast and turned into the guy on the bottom and turned him into everybody. It was not my fault. The track was slick, or such and such turned down. Jackass, you were pointed straight to the wall when you came off turn 4. How is it not your fault? Or, oh, I'm sorry I ran into you again for the 7th week in a row. You can't be sorry 7 weeks in a row. It's not a freaking possibility to be sorry that much. Gee, many Christmas, mass murderers aren't that sorry after they realize what they've done and come off their drugs. I mean, if you repeatedly run into someone or everyone on a weekly basis, it's your fault. My dad told me a long time ago when I wrestled, for 3 weeks in a row I was getting beat because I was trying a stupid move at the beginning of the match. He said the common denominator in all this is you. It's not the other wrestler. It's you. You're the issue. Fix it. Well, we fixed it. Went on a 4 or 5 match winning streak. Wasn't very good, but good that week. So, you guys who are never at fault, I mean, you know who you are, and you know when you say you're sorry, you're an idiot. You know you screwed up. There is no way you can constantly run into everything on the track and not know it. When I slide up on the track and get into somebody, I know it's my fault. I mean, come on. I once got into it with the Madden brothers because I was bound and determined that they turned down into me. That was when I was really, really new at this crap. Hey, guess what? Went home and watched the video. I had to make an apology. So, don't be blaming everybody until you see proof that it was someone else's fault. Because 98% of the time, it ain't someone else's fault. Especially if it's happened week after week after week. I mean, you look like an idiot. The only way people get faster is if they correct the problems they're having or they change something. And if you constantly think you're not wrong, you're not gonna change nothing. So you're gonna stay slow. And what did that prove? Well, I'm still at the back of the pack and wrecked half the field. Today I got 5th, but I wrecked 7 cars. Woohoo, 5th, bud. You know what that paid? An extra like $30 from tow money of getting last and not having the whole track pissed off at you. And by the way, none of us, including your dipstick butt, enjoy working on our cars. It's not fun. I don't enjoy buying parts because the repeatedly dumbass ran into me. I mean, you guys get put up front because IMCA had a great idea on how to sell parts. We will put the slow people to the front so the same fast people are not in the front every week. Dumbest idea ever. Now I gotta get around them idiots. And they're sideways in every corner. And hey, I got news for you. Sideways is not the fast way around the track.
Well, welcome back to Slingin Dirt, folks. This kind of wraps up another week, and you know, with Jamie Songer, why not go out on a high note?
There you go. So I tell you what, stay tuned. We'll be back here another week with none other than Slingin Dirt TV. We'll see you.